What's up, everybody? Happy Wednesday. It is Black Spasms Intimate Conversations. I am your host, Nikki, and we have Les. Say hello, Les. And then we have our special guest, Cirilo.
Hey, how y'all doing?
So today, we're going to do 3 different segments. Today, we are going to talk about voting, what's going on, and in Cigars and Pairings, Cirilo is going to tell us about his message to the cigar industry called Unbanded. So, how's everybody doing out there? Hope everybody's doing well. And trying to make sure. Can somebody comment if you're on Facebook so I can make sure this thing is working? It should be. I had to do some maneuvering. At any rate, we're going to go ahead and get started. So I want to talk about something I don't know if a lot of people know about. Something called Freedom Summer. And Freedom Summer was a nonviolent effort by civil rights activists in Mississippi to get segregated political system. It began in 1963 with the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee and Congress of Racial Equality, which is known as CORE. So this was kind of a bloody summer for Blacks because they were trying to get the right to vote. And hang on. Let's see. Okay. Hey, Chelsea. All right. I just wanted to make sure that you guys were here. Awesome. Wonderful. Great. So let's go back to the Freedom Summer. So Black Mississippians were barred from the Democratic parties and caucuses. Basically, they were not allowed to run. And they challenged the right of the party's white delegation to represent the state at the Democratic National Convention in August in Atlantic City and New Jersey. They held a parallel freedom election in November, and they challenged the right of all white Mississippi congressional delegation to represent the state in Washington, D.C. More than 60,000 Black representatives risked their lives to attend local meetings, choose candidates, and vote in the freedom election. So, needless to say, the whites were not happy about that. So they band together in the White Citizens Council to coordinate punishment of African Americans who participated in Freedom Summer. They foreclosed on mortgages of Black residents' homes. They fired Blacks from their jobs. They banned customers from shopping in their stores. They shut down food pantries for the poor. And the white supremacy groups such as the KKK inflicted violence on Black residents and civil rights workers. Between June 16th and September 30th, 1964, there were at least 6 murders. There was also 29 shootings, 50 bombings, more than 60 beatings, and over 400 arrests of project workers and local residents. So here's some interesting facts. These were some key figures in Freedom Summer. Robert Moses, everybody called him Bob. He proposed the idea of the Freedom Summer. Dave Dennis, who was a veteran, he did sit-ins and freedom rides. Julian Bond and Mary King, they ran the SNCC communications section. And DC's own Marion Barry, who was an SNC worker, arrived on August 18 and started workshops for young Blacks in nonviolent protests. So I don't know if I taught anybody anything or if you guys learned anything, but yep, I learned a lot. So now, hang on. Okay. So now we're going to get into the nitty gritty. What is democracy, y'all? By definition, it's government by the people, a form of government in which the supreme power is vested in the people and exercised directly by them or by their elected agents under a free electoral system. What is voting? By definition, a form or expression of opinion and choice, either positive or negative, made by an individual or body of individuals. The means by which such expression is made as a ballot, ticket, etc. So I want you guys to watch this video. It's about a minute long. Okay, guys, so now we are going to break this down. But before I do that, I want to talk real quick. The reason I want to do this is because there are a lot of people who truly don't understand voting. I'm getting feedback, guys, from one of you. I don't know who it's from.
I have one on mic, so I'm not sure what kind of feedback are you getting.
It's you.
It's me.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. It's better when you put it up to your mouth.
Oh, really? So this is much better.
Yeah.
I'll keep it up here. I'll eat the mic during the show. I'm used to it.
Okay, so the reason I want to do this thing on voting is because I realize that a lot of people don't vote because they don't know what they're doing. They don't understand the true process of voting. When they get into the when they go to the polls to vote, it can be overwhelming. So I kind of want to break it down so that people truly understand our system. And I think that if you understand what you're doing, you won't be afraid of it. So we're going back to Civics 101. I'm taking it back to when we was in like 5th grade. So there are 3 branches of the government: the legislative, executive, and judicial. So the legislative branch makes the laws. They approve presidential appointments from senators, 2 senators from each state, and the number of congressmen is based on population. The executive branch, so the legislative branch for people is basically the House and the Senate. The executive branch is the president. He signs laws, vetoes laws, pardons people, appoints federal judges, and is elected every 4 years. And then you have the judicial branch, which is all of our federal courts. So next, we actually have the separation of powers: the legislative, judicial, and executive. The legislative branch has pretty much the power of the purse. That is the money that goes back and forth between the legislative branch and the executive branch. And then a quick overview of the House and the Senate. The House has 435 members, where the Senate has 100. The term of the length of terms for the House of Representatives is 2 years, while the Senate is 6 years. The House, the minimum age for members is 25. In the Senate, the minimum age to become a member is 30. The organization, many rules, more formal. And for the Senate, it's few rules, less formal. And the representation of states for the House is by population, which is why they have more. And for the Senate, it's equal. So that's kind of a breakdown of the upper echelon. And next, we're going to go into what each role does. So you've got the president. He appoints the general attorney, who leads the Department of Justice. And this executive department of the United States government is responsible for enforcing the federal law and administering justice in the United States. Then we've got the role of the vice president, who basically serves as the president of the U.S. Senate. The vice president will also be the deciding vote in a 50-50 deadlock. If the role of the 25th Amendment was to be enacted, meaning that the president was considered disabled and could not run the country, this is when the vice president would hop in and will also decide the question of presidential disability. And I know for some people this might be mundane, but for those who really don't understand, it was important for me to do this. The senators and representatives in Congress, they create federal laws and have the power to reform the criminal justice system through legislation. You've got your state legislator, which is responsible for policies that define what constitutes crime, the procedures for responding to crime, sentence structures, funding of government agencies, and are responsible for dealing with offenders and victims. Then you've got your governor. Your governor is the highest ranking official in every state. And then after that, we have the lieutenant governor, who kind of serves sort of like how the vice president is. That's pretty much what the lieutenant governor serves on a smaller scale. Then we've got the mayor, which will be next in line in charge. The mayor is a government official and appoints the chief of police in their city, and they help manage law enforcement. Next, we have the district attorneys. They are considered the top law enforcement officials because they decide when an arrest leads to a charge. They can either be elected or appointed depending on your state or county. The sheriff is typically an elected position that oversees a county and is responsible for enforcing the law. Then you've got the Federal Bureau of Prisons. There are currently 117 federal prisons, 6 regional offices, 2 staff training centers, and 22 community correction offices. So next I want to talk about if you are incarcerated and the right to vote. There are 2 states, and including Washington, D.C., where incarcerated prisoners can vote while they are incarcerated. This just happened for DC in I think June or July of this year. And hang on, there's another thing. Okay, so I want to share my screen because I want to show you guys. I want to go over Here we go. I want to go over a ballot when you actually get into the poll office. So this is a sample one for this year. So this section right here, this is your presidential selection. This is the Republican selection, the Democratic selection, the Libertarian selection, the Green selection. And this selection right here, because I know from Maryland, I believe that Governor Hogan said that he voted for Reagan. You can write in whoever you want in this section right here. And then next, I want to talk about this section right here. This is for Congress. This is your Republican candidate and your Democratic candidate, or you can write someone here. Next are circuit judges. So there are 4 to choose from. If you don't know who these people are, I would advise you to do your homework on them. If there's someone here that you think should be there, you can actually write their name in there as well. Next, this section right here talks about things that will change whatever county you live in your state. So in Maryland, they're talking about constitutional amendments. Here they're talking about commercial gaming. And then here they're talking about a charter amendment. So when you're registered to vote, what happens is they'll send you a booklet weeks, sometimes months in advance before the election. I highly recommend that everybody take the time to read the booklet and find out about the candidates that are up for election in your state and in your county. That is important. A lot of people think that the general election is the granddaddy of them all, but it's actually the primary election, because the primary election elects people on your level in your county, in your state. That election is way more involved. That's where you elect your senators that go to the Senate and your representatives that go to the House. So when, like right now, they're trying to get together a stimulus package. So when everybody voted for the primary back in, when did we vote? I forgot, my brain hurts. When did we vote? Last year, right? Yeah, for the primary. Yes. Everybody that was elected then, that's actually when the Democrats took over the House, or they flipped the House. So everybody that you voted for then, that's why that election is very important. So when you vote for in the primary, when they talk about their constituents, they're actually talking about you, us, the ones that actually vote and put them in office. So I like to look at the elections like a job, or a performance appraisal. When you get your performance appraisal at work, if you're doing a sucky job, guess what? You'll get fired. So voting is our chance to let our elected officials know we don't like the job that you're doing, or we love the job that you're doing. And if we love the job that you're doing, we're going to vote for you to keep you in. And if we don't, then we're going to vote to keep you out. So that's voting basics 101. That's all I got on that matter. You guys got anything to say about that or to add?
Yeah, that's a good review, Nikki. I think that's good information. I'm glad that you're sharing it with people. I know some of the things that a lot of people don't recognize is that, who the Senate really represents and who, the House represents, for instance, whereas the Senate is about the state, right? And the House is about the citizens. And so you have a lot of dueling purposes there. And that's why sometimes it seems like you may have a senator from your state that doesn't really that doesn't really align with what the congressmen from the state are saying. Well, their missions are kind of different. A lot of times it's like, okay, well, the senator is really thinking from the perspective of how do I better the state overall? And whereas your Congress people are thinking, how do I better Johnny's life? How do I better Cirilo's life? How do I better Leslie's life? How do I better Nikki's? Like it's a little bit more hands-on, and that's why you end up with ultimately a lot more Congress people than you, or House of Representatives than you do the senators themselves.
Right,
I think
because
that's
the House is by population of that state.
right.
So that's exactly right. That's
Yeah.
why that they're actually more. I kind of want to piggyback off what you were saying, Cirillo, because Congressman Clyburn was on CNN the other day, and he was fired up. Like he was just angry because everybody kept saying, "Oh, it's the Democrats, it's Nancy Pelosi. They won't sign the stimulus bill, this, that, and the other." And he went off. He said, they were like, well, how do you answer your critics that are saying that? And he said, I challenge them to read the bill, not just what's on top, the entire bill. And he said that there were a bunch of slush funds in the bill for the rich. There was a slush fund in there for Steve Mnuchin. And I was like, wow. So he said, we're not going to sign off on that because he said that he had small police departments in his state that were about to go under because they need funding, they need help. So he said, my job is to make sure that the people of my state are taken care of, the little people, the people who lost their jobs, who may have been working for the airlines or working for the hotel industry. Those are the ones who need help. So don't come at me with, well, some is better than none. He said no, because we can get together and do a deal for everybody. And this, basically, he was saying this some is better than none. He said, I don't agree with that because we can get together and come up with a plan that helps the actual people and not the companies. So I just wanted to say kudos to him for that. All right, y'all. So next we're going to talk about what's going on. So Les, what's going on, bro? What's going on with you?
Everything. I'm just not responding.
And to our viewers, what's going on with y'all? Tell us what's going on. How's your week been? What you want to talk about? I know. I got a question for you, Les. I know you've heard. How do you feel about 50 Cent endorsing Trump? What's your take on that?
I believe everyone has a right to vote for who they want to vote for, and endorse who they want to endorse. And if that's what he wants to do, so be it.
So what about Cirilo? What you think about that?
I think that it's really interesting to me that folks wait to the last minute to come to the table with all these ideas and suggestions. Like, where were you during the primary? Where were you when we had 10, 15 people on stage? Like, tell me what you think then. Don't come here now and it seems like an effort to confuse at the final stages to me. Like, and I agree with Leslie. You can endorse whoever you want. We all have that right. But when you carry a certain amount of influence, I think you should really be careful with how you use that influence and how it impacts the people that have been supporting you for years. And like, so, it's real. It's okay. Yeah. 50. He has a lot to gain by having a Republican president, right? But because he's very wealthy, and the stuff has been great for the wealthy over the last 4 years, right? So yeah, of course, I don't expect him to vote against his interests. But with that said, though, I don't expect anybody to vote against their interests. And so unless you're 50 Cent and you have his wealth, then you need to be thinking about your interests. Like, what is important for you and your family? What is important for you to be able to advance through society? Like, you can't really listen to, for the most part, most people that would listen to 50 Cent are not in his position. So they really should not be following what he's suggesting. You know what I mean? It's kind of backwards in that regard. And 50 Cent don't have to worry about having 50 Cent at the grocery store, right? You know what I mean?
Oh, yes.
Right? He doesn't have to worry about that. It's been years, probably decades since he's ever even looked at his account when it comes to making regular purchasing decisions and things like that people have to think about all the time. If you're waiting for your stimulus check to come, then you can't really afford to listen to a 50 Cent and who he endorses. Like these are things people have to really think through this stuff, because otherwise they'll find themselves following someone who doesn't represent their best interest. He's a really talented guy. I've always loved his music. He did a good job with Power till Raina got shot, and
Downhill from there, buddy.
Downhill from there. So the fact that he let Raina get killed, it don't surprise me that he
But you know what? But okay, so to that point, like, I've been on social media pretty much all day, and there are a lot of blacks who are upset behind it, this, that, and the other. But I mean, if you really think about it, it's like what you said. You're going to vote to protect your interests. And a lot of the ones who are upset ain't even close to the tax bracket that he's in. So, you know, if you feel that strongly about it, then are you still going to support him? Are you still going to support his music? Are you still going to support Vitamin Water because he has a stake in that? Are you still going to support Power and the new show? Like, I get that people are upset.
It depends on who he endorsed actually wins. If who he endorsed wins, I can't mess with him no more. He's a party to that situation. What do you think, Leslie? I mean, like, really, like.
Nikki and I was talking about this earlier, briefly, and when you think about 50 Cent, and like you say, he's voting for his own, he's protecting his own interests,
Right.
And he has a right to do that. I think black people get too emotional about things like this. You know, he has a right to vote. He's been given that right to vote. When we talk about people like 50 and Puffy and Jay-Z, in my opinion, Q, we're not talking about black people anymore. We're actually talking about brown people. And the reason why it's brown and not green is because money is brown. Right?
Yeah, so it's less ethnicity and more socioeconomic at that point.
And that's what it is. And, you know, if are black people going to boycott Power because of this? I think that's very immature. You know, I'll put it to you like this. We know what the home team is, the Burgundy and Gold or the Washington team. So if you are a fan of the Burgundy and Gold, you can't be a fan of the Dallas Cowboys, right?
That's right.
You can't. With that being said, if the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys wanted to come to your house and have dinner, as a Burgundy and Gold fan, would you allow him to come to your house?
I would.
People would say, no, nobody from the Dallas Cowboys coming to my house. I can't stand the Cowboys. I hate it. It's emotional. These guys are doing a job there, but you can't personally dislike them based on the team that they play for. You know, as we get older, we begin to evolve a little bit more. This is what I said. I said it last week when it comes down to 50 cents. Once again, I quote Grandmaster Flash and the Furious 5. It's all about money. ain't a damn thing funny. You gotta have a con in this land of milk and honey. It's the con.
Mm-hmm.
And I give the cat credit. He's protecting his own interests.
But I mean, how many people watching? You want to protect your interests too. And I think Les is right. I think people sometimes get really emotional. And he's a businessman. I mean, if I had gazillions of dollars, honestly, I don't even know what I would do because I can't even think that high right now. But I mean, I want to protect what I have now. So I think you need to look at what it is that you have and what you would do to protect it. How far would you go to protect that you have? I mean, this is the same guy who was ordered to pay $5 million to that young lady for the sex tape and filed bankruptcy. Chapter 11 bankruptcy, mind you, where it didn't disturb the business aspect of things. It just froze his assets. So he still could conduct business. So it's not like he's not smart. He's protecting his vested interests and everything that he has. So I'm not saying that I agree. I'm just trying to give people different ways of looking at it and trying to put yourself in a situation where, or you can, in someone else's shoes, where you can be like, okay, because most Republicans have money. Most Republicans are rich because they're rich. They're rich. Most rich people are Republicans. They look out for their own.
Well, yeah. So there's a few different things there. I mean, we tend to get to the election times and we start looking at everybody as one dimensional, and we're not. We're not one dimensional. We have several aspects to our person.
Mm-hmm.
And we're forced into these spaces to kind of address who people are, with certain acts that they present. One of the most recent famous situations like that, outside of the political thing, is R. Kelly, right?
Mm.
How many times did we step in the name of love, right? And still when the song comes on, you're like, oh man, like and then you start thinking about him, and then you're ready to sit down. It's like separating the art from the artist, separating the business from the businessman, separating the political skew from the politics. These things are very complex, right? And they aren't necessarily designed in a way that makes it convenient to say you my man or you not my man. It's like sometimes you my man, but sometimes you not. And right now, we can deal with things on that level. I don't think we have to necessarily say, we're with you 100% in order to be a supporter of yours. And I don't think we have to say we're against you 100% just because you're doing something that we don't necessarily agree with. You know what I mean? This whole that kind of the 100% piece is what kind of birthed this whole cancel culture, right? It's like you don't have a lot of chances here.
Right.
You do one thing that I don't like, and I'm about to
I'm
make
done
this
with you.
I'm about to make this viral viral tweet that destroys everything that you are and have been and will be. Like, I'm not a fan of the cancel culture. But the difference between my statement earlier and saying that, depends on his depends on who
Who
wins,
wins?
right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the difference between that and the cancel culture is that I'm not standing on nobody's rooftop and saying nobody should be watching 50 Cent's show. I stopped watching it long before that.
Me
And I was,
too.
but the thing is, like, for me, it's about how I feel about something
Right.
and my position on things.
Mm-hmm.
And we hand that off to other people all the time. right?
Mm.
Here, you take that. You tell me how I should feel about that. You do. Like, nobody, people don't read the stuff that you showed on the ballot, and they don't sit there and do critical thinking. They say, well, where is the sample ballot from the NAACP? That's what I'm gonna fill in. So they don't really know the issue.
Mm-hmm.
They're handing that over. They're handing
Mm-hmm.
that over to someone else.
Mm-hmm.
And they're thinking, okay, well, they align with most of my views, so I'm good. And that's okay. I mean, if it's better than nothing, but at some point you have to take the responsibility and kind of look at, well, what is representative of who I am? Because I'm a complex person,
Mm-hmm.
and be okay with wherever you land. I'm an independent. I'm not a Democrat nor a Republican
Mm-hmm.
personally, right? And that's because I think it's important for me to always be in a lane. I'm not voting down a ticket just because that's what a ticket says. There are
Right.
some things that are really important to me, namely cigars, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like cigars fall on the side of Democrats are trying to kill the industry. Republicans are the only ones that are kind of keeping it alive, right? So if I love cigars, so if I love cigars, I need to be able to legislatively talk to my representatives that may fall in the Republican spectrum and understand that they're going to represent my interests in this.
And that's why it's important for people to know who their state, and legislative people are. People, I mean, you can actually find out who they are, get their contact information, email them, pre-COVID, you could go to their office. You can call them on the phone. You can mail them letters. We have power, but a lot of times we just don't use it or exercise it, or we don't know how to exercise it.
You know,
So
the key
go ahead.
the key word is power. You know,
Right.
and I think with Black people, the only time that we are called upon to exercise our power is during the elections. And the challenge that I've always had, even growing up, you would see politicians always come to Black churches during election time. You don't see them any other time. And then when they come, they want to talk about morals and your right to vote and you have the power to elect the next president. But after that, you no longer have power. And when you start saying, we do have the power, you're right. Going into the polls, looking at the candidate, looking at what we need to be voting for. Like you said, it could be right in front of you, but you have no idea that you could be potentially voting against your own interests.
Exactly.
So when 50 Cent, comes out and says, vote for Trump, while also claiming, this is the people, 50 Cent says, vote for Trump, while also claiming President doesn't like Black people. Watch this. Watch this. Well,
Hold on.
good.
It seems impossible for somebody to say that, right?
Right.
But it happens all the time. You're making a great point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You're making a great point.
Mm-hmm. I want to show you something too when we talk about voting. So this is another reason that I think that people get discouraged. So this is a ballot for Montgomery County. This is for the primary. If you know nothing about voting, this looks intimidating as hell. So, like you said, Les, you could potentially be voting against someone that actually has your best, or that's more in line with your interests. That's why it's so important to do your research on each of the candidates.
Well, see, now that you're let me back up a little bit. Sometimes we don't know when we're going against our best interest.
Mm-hmm.
When I put it to you like this, if I made $500 million a year and you told me that I can get away with only paying $750 in taxes, I'd vote for it. What Black people need to understand No permanent friends, no permanent enemies, only permanent allies. So when 50 Cent says, vote for Trump, while also claiming president doesn't like black people, Kanye West said, George Bush doesn't care about black people, right?
Mhm.
So, but they're now voting in favor of their interest. We've been told stuff like, vote Democrat, whatever you are. So we'll go through, and everyone that's on the Democratic side, we'll vote. We'll check them all. And then later on, you go back and you read and you get an understanding. Now, while Donald Trump doesn't like black people, he ain't got to like black people. You know what I'm saying? He's not there to like black people. He's there to enforce policy, and he's a business person. You know, we have to lose the emotional aspect of it because we get too emotional about stuff like this. You know, I would sit down and talk to Donald Trump given the opportunity. Why wouldn't I? You know, I mean, he hasn't done anything against me personally. I'm trying to
Okay.
get information. It doesn't mean I support him, you know, but I'm saying we need to stop being emotional. As we talked earlier, and we said revenge is a dish best served cold. And I think with black folks, we get in an uproar, and because people say, "Well, I'm voting for Trump." Knock yourself out. That's your right. Because right now, 50 is voting for the man that is protecting his interests.
So this goes back to what I don't like about the US. We're a capitalistic society, and money means more than people. And that's shown in the drug industry, the pharmaceutical industry, excuse me. And I had to phrase that.
Same thing.
Right. So the reason I say that is because, insulin, which is something millions of Americans are on, it's over $300. But you can go to Canada into a regular Walmart and buy a bottle of insulin for $7.
Yeah.
Why is that? Why is that?
Capitalism at its finest.
Exactly. So
Capitalism can work beautifully with the right social system safety net.
correct.
Right. So the problem is that, the things that we have as a social system aren't socially acceptable, available for everyone in our country. Right. So there's a social safety net for the extreme poor. Right. And then there's the social protections that are there for the very, very wealthy. And we've crunched the hell out of our middle class and those workers who kind of work paycheck to paycheck. You know what I mean? We've crunched them. And because of modern medicine, people are living longer. So you have a lot of people our age who are caring for parents and caring for kids at the
Mm-hmm.
same time.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no social relief for us, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so then you have this space where capitalism gobbles us up because our needs are so great. There's no social safety net, and we become dependent on capitalistic uh, engines, right, to produce money to take care of all of our needs, right? And so now we're doing jobs that we really rightfully should be paid $125 an hour for. We're doing it for $70 an hour, or
If
we're doing
that,
right.
if that.
Right, or we're doing $50 an hour jobs, and we're doing it for $15 to $20 because we don't have a social safety net for that middle class, and so capitalism is really doesn't belong hand in hand with politics, except for if those capitalistic entities, those companies, are forced to pay more money into a social system that benefits the entirety of the population. right? And so and I think that's why, you know, that's why capitalism really has such a bad name, because it's been married with a system that doesn't have basic human rights for all citizens.
Mhm.
And it happened at a time when all citizens weren't even considered human, and then it's just evolved since then, right?
Mhm.
So now we're in a situation where we've made do, and it's almost a badge of honor to say, I made it. I'm okay. I make a strong live. These are things that we're proud of. I worked my butt off. I worked 2 jobs, worked 3 jobs. You shouldn't be working 3 jobs. Like, why? In the wealthiest country in the world, you working 3 jobs just to make ends meet. What happened? What happened? Because when we were kids, granddad had 1 job and grandma ain't work.
Mhm.
And they bought a house, had a nice little car, took vacations. You got people working 3 jobs. You know what they're doing? Working extra hours at their other 2 jobs when they go on a vacation from one. It's a different. And what do? They turn us against each other to take the eyes off of what's really happening around us. And I
Like a
think
dog.
that's
That's a great point. I don't think capitalism was ever the problem. I think greed was the problem. You
Mm.
know, because I mean, before capitalism, I think we had the barter system. So when you introduce this thing called money, and that's what you needed to exchange, and people was like, no, we're no longer going to barter, but now, greed. I want more, 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 more. So you're right. You got people working extra jobs just to survive. You
just to
know,
survive.
and it's ridiculous. I mean, but something that you said that triggered. We're missing a point here. With all of this work, you know, black people have been working for years. We built this country. As I said last week, we're tired of doing these menial jobs.
Built it for free.
We built it.
Right.
So when we go back and the question that was asked, who loses if black people win?
I
It's a
say
good
nobody.
question.
Black people were brought here as not as slaves, but as underclass. You know, we're the legs of the table. We hold the table up. What happens if the legs of the table said, "Hell, I don't want to do this no more," and walk away? What happens to the base?
Mhm.
So who loses if black people win? Because they need us. They
Yeah.
really need us.
So that's a good conversation, Nikki. Right? Like it's that that really kind of goes back to whether or not black people should get reparations. Does that level the playing field? Right? That goes back to of black people as a whole. We still have the diversity amongst us. We got dumbass people, we got smart ass people, we got the whole gamut. Like, we got
Mm.
stupid people, like we got everything. We got some of the most brilliant minds, the most creative minds. We got all these things. And these people could operate in a capitalistic society very well. The issue really is not the active uh, holding back from what we deserve. It's the I don't care enough about who you are, what you do, where you belong in society, to give some thought to whether or not I'm holding you back. It's almost
Mhm.
like when Kanye said George Bush don't care about black people. He was not wrong in the fact that George Bush didn't have any malice. I really don't believe he had any malice towards black people.
No.
I
Right.
really don't believe that. I believe he just didn't care.
He
he,
he was indifferent. You know what I'm saying?
right.
Just
Yeah. He literally just didn't care. It was not a thought on his in his mind ever. Like, Oh, is black people okay? No, he he
Right.
just he never
Right.
he never sat around the grill with some ribs up there flipping it and stuff like, you know what? I wonder how the black folks are doing in the country, right? He's just it couldn't be further from his mind,
Mhm.
right? The first time he really probably had to focus in on black people was during Katrina, right? Like oh shoot,
Yeah.
Right.
black people,
Look,
Right.
a bunch of black people.
Yes.
Oh no, what do I do?
Right.
Like, I don't even think about these guys. I ain't got nothing against them, but right now, because I haven't thought through the plight of their neighborhoods and their economic system and all of these things, and because I haven't thought through it, I don't really know how to respond to this disaster. So the fact Black George Bush didn't care, it wasn't that he hated black people. No, that's not the same thing.
Right.
Now, I can't say that much for some other politicians, right? I think there are some politicians who actively hate us, who
Strom
hate
Thurmond,
us.
when he was living, Strom Thurmond when he was living.
Yeah, hate
Yeah.
us,
Yeah.
hate us, and hated Obama being in office, and
Oh gosh.
they just hated the whole idea behind black people being anything more than subservient. Just hate the whole notion.
I
That's a
remember.
whole different conversation, though, right? You know, that's not I don't care. That's no, you care a lot, but you care a lot about the oppression.
Right.
Mhm.
I remember when Congressman Len Westmoreland said that Michelle and Barack Obama were uppity.
Why? Because they were intelligent.
Yeah, I mean, and that was it just lets you know how they think or what they think. How do you uppity?
Yeah.
Because they were
Such a
educated, because they weren't ghetto, because they didn't use ebonics, because they dress nice. So now because they even the playing field, now they uppity. No, you just got somebody that's on your level that's black that you're not used to.
And keep in mind where they're coming from as well. So remember, I don't know if you guys ever watched In the Heat of the Night. There was an episode when Sidney Poitier goes into, I think they're investigating a murder, and he goes into this older white gentleman's nursery, and he's asking Sidney Poitier is asking him questions. So the white guy was like, are you implying that I had something to do with this? So I don't know. He didn't like Sidney Poitier's response, so he smacks him. With the quickness, Sidney Poitier smacks him back. And he's standing there in awe, you know what I'm saying? Like a bitch. Excuse me, you know what I'm saying? As, like he couldn't believe that he just got smacked. So he looked at Connor, I forgot his name, Archie Bunker, and he said, did you see what he just did? He said, yeah. Well, are you going to do anything? He didn't say anything. So the white gentleman looks at Sidney Poitier and said, there was a time in which I could have had you killed. So they're not accustomed. And two, black folks, I mean, I think white people are now accustomed to black people, affluent black people, your Oprah Winfrey's, your Barack Obama, your Michelle Obamas. So now they don't call us uppity, but understanding where he's coming from, I'm not saying he's right at all. But when you see someone as articulate, and guess what? That still happens. We're just fortunate enough to be in the metropolitan area that you see a lot of successful black people. And years ago, they said that Washington, D.C. had the most black degree individuals than any other major city. And we know how small D.C. is. Now, maybe they were including the whole metropolitan area.
Well, they was including PG County in that. you already know they were including PG County in that. They call that the Ninth Ward of DC, right? So
yeah. Nah, but it's I'm not mad at 50. He needs to do what he needs to do. And we need to do what we need to do individually and collectively.
This is the only part that I'm upset with 50 about, because he's known to be a very honest person, right? Like 50 he don't care. He'll put it out there to and it don't matter. It don't matter who it offends or any, like he's just that person. Vote if you say I'm endorsing Donald Trump, you gotta also say at the same time, because he more aligns with my interests.
Well, he did. He said that he decided to endorse Trump after he read Biden's tax plan.
And he was going to be affected by it.
Right.
But
so,
he also said to other, well, to say endorsing though, that really is saying I want people who follow me to vote this way as well, right?
I don't look at it that way.
Well,
I mean,
if the Washington Post endorses Biden, are they saying that I want the readers of the Washington Post to also vote that way? Or are they just impartial at that point? You're just saying this is my opinion.
Basically, because he didn't have to come out and say anything.
Right.
He didn't. You're right. You're right.
Right.
That part, Les. Right. That part.
Go back to the movie, I think, Head of State with Chris Rock when he was running for president, right? At the last second, when they realized this nigga could win, and that's their mindset, they sent everybody out.
That movie is hilarious. It's so real. It's so real. And I really truly believe that movie was a precursor to us. There's a few things in pop culture that really resonates and allows for the real life stuff to happen. Seeing the guy that was on the 24, remember that show, the 24, the Allstate guy as president, that was very helpful.
Yes.
And Chris Rock doing the movie Head of State. I think these things soften edges. They soften the edges enough so that people could really see Barack Obama running our country. Like, even though one is a comedy, other is a spy thriller type thing, it's like, oh, this is not out of the ordinary, because 24 was one of the most popular shows on TV when it was happening, with a black president. When Morgan Freeman was a black president in that movie, what was it, Deep Impact or something like that?
No, Deep Impact was no, that might have been. I'm thinking
it was one of those asteroid movies when the asteroid was about to kill everybody on Earth, and Morgan Freeman was the president. Like, these things soften the edges around the possibilities, right? Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, so I think these things in pop culture really do have an impact on how things move forward, and 50 Cent is a big part of pop culture.
Post up, go back when they utilized Puffy to come out with that Rock the Vote. You know,
why would they do that?
Right, because but guess who utilized him? Well, you know what? I won't say the Democrats, because it was neutral. He didn't come out and say vote.
He didn't.
Yeah, he just came out.
People to vote, right?
He wanted to get people to vote. As 50 is endorsing
a particular candidate.
Correct. He may not even vote for him.
Right.
You know?
Right. I think that's the only hang up I have with it. But you're right. Yeah, he did say he read tax plan, this, that, and the other. Okay, cool.
And guess what? I mean, can you be mad at it?
No, because Donald Trump paid $750 in taxes. Like, I want to do that too.
Right. So,
how do I pay $750 in taxes as well?
For 2 years, right? So Ms. Brown now says 50 Cent is a businessman at the end of the day. All business folks are about their cash flow. Don't let folks fool you, because the reality is not everyone is as vocal bold about their stances. But I have a question for you, Cirilo, something that you said. When you said, where were they in the primary? Do you think if Ice Cube would have had the contract for Black America back then, that anybody would have listened? Because what did we say last week, Les? We talked about the time. What did you say? There was a time. No, there's everybody has a time and a place. Remember you said that last?
It'll come to me.
Okay.
Well, so to answer your question, while Les is thinking about this, I believe it would have mattered. Ice Cube has enough influence that he could have done his own town hall meeting and invited all the primary folks and said, "Hey, listen, this is my plan. This is my contract." What giving them access to it before and sat there and did the whole town hall debate or whatever you want to call it around his plan.
Okay.
Right? And he would have been able to hear from all of the candidates what they thought, right? And at the same time, one of the candidates might have said, "You know what? I'll adopt that. I can actually take that and put it into my framework because I didn't have a plan. Thank you, Ice Cube." And now we get to, and you know how it happens when we got Biden. Biden started pulling a little bit of all the different candidates that were running, right, to make his ticket strong, so everybody felt included somehow. And that might have been one of those pieces that he was like, "You know what? I like that. Let's go."
I wonder what would have happened if he'd have introduced it and Andrew Yang got a hold of it.
Well, it's part of Andrew Yang. I like him.
Me too.
I like Andrew Yang. I like him a lot.
Because he was talking
about he's a little dry,
but he was talking about putting money in people's pockets, though. You know, actual money in people's pockets.
And that was and that didn't have that's the social safety net that I talked about earlier, right? Like he was really talking about, this is the way that you marry capitalism with the greatness of the United States, right? Everybody deserves $1,000 a month. Bottom line.
But you got to remember that the rich don't want people climbing up that financial ladder because it makes them elite, and they don't want a whole bunch of people becoming elite like them. Because
don't get it twisted, Nikki. You know good and well, you put $1,000 a month into a lot of people's hands. What they gonna do with that $1,000 a month? They spending it. Who they spending it with? The rich people. But they also have the option of saying, "You know what? With this $1,000 a month, guaranteed, I can sit in front of a mortgage officer and say, I want to buy this home, and at least you all know that you, at the very least, I can assign my $1,000 a month to you for my home."
Or
right?
I can invest it. And y'all know I'm in the finance, so I was taught a long time ago that your money should make money for you. And when the guy told me, I was like, "What do you mean?" He said, "You will go far in this industry. Keep working, and you'll understand." And I did. I watched how people allowed their money to make money for them, so that when they got to a certain point, they didn't have to work. I mean, I had people who were in their 30s who had retired already.
You guys are talking great stuff, right? And I think we have to go back to. You want to read that comment?
So Alana said, "Hey, Alana." She says, "Money is a greater divider than race."
I agree with that. Let's go back to King Barrett. If you watch Black AF, right?
I love that show. That was a great show.
And after that, I woke up, man, I laughed the whole time. But it all began with slavery. You know, it's because of slavery, right? You know, we are where we are based on a few things. You know, we don't have the knowledge. We don't have the resources. We do have people that do have a few black people. Could you imagine if every black person made $250,000 a year? It would change the complexion of this country, right? Right? You're right. What's going to happen with $1,200 a month? What you going to do with that? You know, what you're going to do, you're going to spend it with the rich. One thing that I've learned, the rich don't pay for nothing. Poor people pay for everything. Rich don't pay for anything. So the story that came out a couple months ago where this guy was impersonating Kevin Hart, he called up to a fitness center, a gym, said, hey, I'm going to be in there with my trainer. You know, can I come in and you know, get a free session or, you know, free membership for the time that I'm there? And they try to make it happen as much as possible. Why in the world does he need, why do we need to give him free membership, right? When you got poor people out here who really need it, but you won't give it to them, but you'll give it to a cat like him. You know, and it's because of publicity and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
You know, voting, understanding how to vote, understanding how to vote, you know, your best interest. My mother was a Democrat. Her mother was a Democrat. I'm a Democrat. I'm voting for everybody that's Democrat, even if I don't like the person. So what do you do when you come up with moral issues?
Whose phone is that?
Hang on. Yeah, that's interesting.
That was weird.
Yeah.
Okay.
It wasn't even good music.
I know. Okay, so wait a minute. So we got, all right, so Miss Brown Eyes, she says that there was a mention of this plan when Roland Martin spoke to Ice Cube. You know what? He did say he spoke to him a few months ago. And then she says the Black Caucus has requested implementation of quite a few of the items that Ice Cube has put into his plan. And she says it's been passed to the Senate, but nothing has been put into action. And this is why people don't know that there are many things being fought for and actually winning the fight. It's just getting the leaders to actually make it actionable. I think so, Miss Brown. She wanted to know if somebody hacked us. I don't know. I think somebody may have. That was strange. So,
yeah. I Miss Brown Eyes, I agree with you wholeheartedly with his efforts to push things forward with Roland Martin. I still think that was too late. Listen, Ice Cube has had this. Listen, he's been dealing with this stuff since NWA, right? This is not new to him by any means. And he's had a lot of years to garner success to the point where he could spend time on the politics around something without it infringing on his wealth or his well-being or the family or anything. He's had this time already, and he could, and you cannot poorly plan a rollout of something like this. Well, hell, all the Black folks don't even know what this is. Like, we don't even know. Like, you got this plan for us? What tell me about it, because I'm a Black person.
Right, and why him? Why Ice Cube? You know what I'm saying? Why? I mean, when I'm leery when I see people like Ice Cube and Snoop Doggy Dogg. You know,
Les, I wouldn't care who it is. All I'm so yeah, I'm not really. I'm only talking about Ice Cube because he had something to say, right? I couldn't. It could have been one of us rolling out this plan. First of all, you got to get agreement from some Black folks that this impacts, and you have to put it into a form that people understand and buy in to this plan for us. Like, okay, so now when you roll out this plan, you roll it out early when people can say yay or nay around it, and then we can make a decision based off of whether or not that candidate has said yay or nay. And that's all I'm saying. It could have been anybody. It could have been anybody. See, we live in this world of sound bites, right? So people get excited about, all these things. I'm seeing a lot of sound bites from stuff that was like 40 years ago and stuff, like, journalists and poets and activists and stuff. These people said this stuff 50, 60 years ago even. You know what I mean?
And nobody was listening.
Like Baldwin. You see a lot of stuff with Baldwin today.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, hold up. Baldwin. We can't live on the soundbite of Baldwin. We need to understand what he was saying this 50, 60 years ago. Why didn't it happen?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Mm-hmm.
It's been a lot of years. What stopped it? Harry Belafonte has been fighting the fight for justice all my life and before I was living.
Oh, I have to do that every time I hear that. Every time I hear his name. Every time I hear his name, I have to say that.
Right, but I'm just saying, like, these are things that have. We know the problems. We know the things that we could do to fix.
You said we. Are you talking America or are you talking black people?
Well, black people live the problem. Okay. I think America knows the problem. I think you're starting to see some of the younger Americans like, man, the hell with this, man. Yo, this is jacked up. Mm-hmm. It just so happens they start, co-opting a lot of our Black Lives Matter movements and stuff like that, to get the message out. But these are things like, nobody. You had to been living in a bubble all your life to not know what's going on with the Black community as a whole. Mm-hmm. And sometimes some people do live in bubbles. Like, there's some midway places that I went to when I was driving my niece to Washington, from Maryland to Washington State, Olympia. And I ran across a few places that I was like, oh, you ain't never seen nobody that look like me before.
That happened to my mother. She was in some part of Utah, and they had stopped at one of these little gas stations to get gas and go in the little convenience store. And when they walked in, my mother said the woman's eyes got big as silver dollars, and she was like, Leroy, come quick! There's colors in the store. This was in the 90s. And she wanted to know that she wanted to touch my mother's skin because she had never seen a black. She had seen them on TV, but she had never seen one in real life. And she was just so in awe. Now, with my mom and her staff, she got all these black. You got about 5 or 6 blacks in the store, and she was just in awe. So her husband comes out and he says, "You're right, honey. There are coloreds in the store." The fact that they were still using the word coloreds in the 90s.
And not in a way where they thought they was being offensive.
Right.
It was like y'all y'all last name was colored.
Right, exactly. And so Alana says, we live the problem. I'm not convinced that most people really know what the problem is. We see the fruit, not the root. Oh, shucks, she's spitting some knowledge on us, y'all. So
putting us up on game.
Right. Hey, Allison. No worries, honey. No worries. Allison says, hello, Nikki. She says, sorry, she's late. No worries. You're here now.
Because Claude Anderson said, nobody wants to propose Black solutions for Black problems. Society is more comfortable recommending broad minority solutions for problems that are exactly unique to Black people alone.
Can you read that again?
Nobody wants to propose Black solutions for Black problems. Society is more comfortable recommending broad minority solutions for problems that are actually unique to Black people alone.
I agree with that.
Okay, yeah.
I agree with that. I agree with that. I think it's more comfortable for folks to feel like, okay, I'm not specifically helping Black people. I recognize there's a minority issue, right? And so, see, that was less last time. That was his ringtone.
You know,
that was less he took that one hand and went like, ooh.
Put that on mute, Les.
Hey, look, no, but I agree. I think that it's just because I think that's part of the whole all lives matter thing too, right? I think if they can address Black lives by saying all lives, they just feel more comfortable about that shit. And it's a really, really passive aggressive way of trying to activate your activism as a white person, right? It's like, okay,
Utah people still talk like that.
But it's
I ain't
beautiful.
going to Utah.
But Utah is beautiful though. Salt Lake City.
I got another question for y'all. So I know y'all heard about the tape being released in the Breonna Taylor case. So how do you guys feel about what Daniel Cameron actually had to say?
Well, listen. I don't know what he said. What did he say? You mean what he said before the tapes were released?
Right.
What he said? Okay.
Well, because he said they weren't going to appeal it, but he still feels like he did the right thing, and the jurors were saying that they were asking about homicide, but he didn't answer their question. And I believe that there was a Kentucky lawyer that said when a grand juror asks, that you have to answer that question, and he didn't do that. And I believe that's why he fought so hard to not have the tape released. I don't know what's on the tape. I don't know if it's been if it's on a website somewhere public, but I just wanted to know what you all thought about that. I think that it speaks volumes that a juror actually requested that the tape be released, because that's something that rarely ever happens. That's why they're sealed. And now a second juror has actually come out to basically corroborate what the first grand juror said. They're both remaining anonymous for now.
Right.
But I think when he pretty much called Breonna Taylor's mom in and said, this is what the grand jury decided, and tried to put the blame on them, I think that's when they were like, no, you're not going to do this. You didn't give us what we were asking for, and now you're trying to make us out to be your scapegoat, and that doesn't work.
Well, the writing was on the wall with Breonna Taylor, in my opinion, once they did the settlement before the grand jury convened.
Exactly.
Right? Like this is your justice is basically what they were saying.
That's what I felt. Miss Brown Eye says maybe it's something that struck him to his core, just like how watching the video George Floyd did and made them want to step up.
Well, he didn't really step up though.
No, I think she's talking about the juror.
Right.
I think she might be talking about the juror.
I don't know, Les. I mean, listen, you got the Black Lives Matter on, right?
No, that's eradicate Black Spasms.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Same thing.
No.
No.
It's not. No, it's not. It's not.
Right. Eradicate Black Spasms. Okay, there is a difference. This is what I think with Breonna Taylor. I think that she was in a state. You know how they say, wrong place, wrong time. She lived in a place that would never give justice to a Black woman or a Black man if something bad went down. Like this is just, and Cameron is just a person, in my opinion. He is not representative of Black people, right? He's not.
Why not?
Why isn't he?
Yes, sir.
Because, well, I don't know why he isn't, but if you ask him what his actions show, is that he basically says he got up on the stage and said, as a black person, this sickens me. But when he's in the position to actually do something about what sickens him, he chooses not to do something that sickens him. So it's not just because he doesn't get an edge up, because I don't get edge ups either because I'm bald, but it's because he is in the prime position to have a difference made in the lives of people whose cases are brought before the justice system.
Let's go back to what we've been talking about. Did it serve his best interest from a political perspective, from a relationship perspective?
I don't know how inhumanity or the lack of compassion around human rights ever serves anybody's best interest short of slavery, right? Slavery is one of those things where it serves the person who's the most inhumane to a degree. Like, you can't kill your slaves because that's just stupid, right? Like, but as it pertains to what we're saying, like, yeah, you really do fall, when you fall on that side of inhumanity, and it's okay, and it's happened under your watch. That, I don't know how that serves your best interest. I don't know how that ever would serve his best interest as a black man. I just don't see how that's possible. It's not that I'm reluctant. I could be, maybe I could listen to some explanation of how it would, but I just don't see how it's possible.
Because all skin folk and kinfolk, and you know that's McConnell's protege. So
Yeah, I did. I heard that.
If his interest is to appease them, meaning not us, then he's serving his interest. I'm not talking about as being a black man. I'm talking about what he's trying to accomplish in that state for his
self-preservation has to kick in at some point, right? And if you have aspirations beyond his position, right, then you have this on your record as a stain. I don't know how that helps you, because it's about humanity. It's about humanity. It's a stain on your record.
I get it, but
and I don't even think white people would be like, oh no, I'm good with him. Like, you see how many white people were in an uproar about this Breonna Taylor stuff too. It wasn't just black people; it was white people too. Like,
right,
this is really a big deal. I don't know how you see that as an opportunity to progress your career in any way.
And I'm wondering if he was getting pressure from someone.
No, I'm sure. I'm
sure. I'm wondering if he was, getting pressure from someone.
Isn't it the same place where Mallory got locked up because she was outside of his house? Was this the same place here? That's a shame.
What?
It's so much atrocities happen to black people that I can't even remember if this is where the activists actually got locked up fighting this battle. Was it the Breonna Taylor battle? That where they locked up.
I know what you're talking about. Right.
Tamika Mallory and another one of the other, I think her name was Portia or something like that. Or
did Tamika Mallory get arrested?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that, because
and they tried to hit her with some felony charges. I think it's since been dropped.
Dismissed? Okay.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, this was a big deal, and
then probably so, because she's been on the ground fighting this Breonna Taylor thing in Kentucky for a while.
She's a phenomenal person.
I love her, and if we could get her on here, I would just be in awe. I actually love Tamika Mallory. I follow her on all platforms. Yeah. I love when she goes live on Instagram and she starts venting. I'll be right there.
Yeah.
Speak your truth, girl.
That's because you and her are of the same spirit. Y'all both fire. when you passionate, fire. You about to get this fire rain down on you.
Hey, listen. Sometimes people need to hear it, man. It comes a point where you
Hey,
just you
hey
can't
Leslie,
stay
you seen
quiet.
that fire before, Leslie? You seen that fire from Nikki before? Oh man.
I've yet to see it.
Oh man.
Those that know me know when I'm passionate about something, then I can't let it go. So,
Right.
which is why when they asked me to be a part of Black Spasms, hey Les, why don't you tell Cirilo what Black Spasms is? Because I don't think I explained what Black Spasms is.
Black spasm is the pain and discomfort associated with being black. Okay, for those who've had back spasms or any type of spasm, I won't say it's an attack, but we'll say it's an attack against the color of our skin, and it's the pain. So I use the adjective or the noun to describe how it is living in this skin for us, black people. And what we're seeing now, we're actually seeing strange fruit. It's not from the trees. It's not hanging from the trees. It's on the ground. When folks are jogging. So black spasms, pain and discomfort associated with being black, and the black spasms just don't come from white people.
Nope. We got Bob's black on black
spasms. And because I'm not taking an emotional perspective with this 50 Cent, maybe a couple of years ago I would call that a Bob, but I look at it differently now. What I will call a BOBS is Clarence Thomas, or the new cat, what's his name? Ben Carson. These are the folks that I would call Bobs, but black spasms can happen to us at any time now. Driving while black, jogging while black, sleeping while black, and being black while black.
Yeah.
And that's where we are now. Eradicate black spasms is for us. What can we do to deal with our own emotional hurt and pain?
Mm-hmm.
Do we need therapy? Do we need to talk it out? Do we need to work it out? This is why we're not in the street busting people in the head, because we want to be able to sit down and have this dialogue so we can deal with it. Ivy, our partner as well, is working on IOU, which is the Institute of Understanding. Because like the Bible says, above all things, get an understanding. We're not into teaching people how to treat us. In terms of don't do this, we're demanding things, and we're doing it through our conversation, through our activism, through our understanding how things work, critical analyses, being mature, getting rid of the emotions as much as possible, but also understanding we need to stop supporting those who don't support us. How many people are still going to watch? If you're emotional about this, about 50 cents voting, be emotional. If you're going to cuss them out and then turn around and watch Power, then you're not doing anything. We need to learn how to protect our best interests, the interests of our children, ourselves. We need to learn how to, if necessary, firearms are important. Self-defense is very important. Education is going to always be important, but not education in terms of, going to their universities to learn what they want us to learn. But I think that we need African-centered education, which we can get education to help our people because we need it. We need it bad. We need therapy, and that's another problem in the Black community. We look at therapy as being weak,
As a taboo. I ain't crazy.
but you know what? We are crazy. How the hell do we go through?
It makes me want to holler.
Yeah, 400 plus years of enslavement, not slavery, but enslavement, and still come out okay. We can't come out okay. Nikki and I were talking the other day, and we were talking about the word MF. Where did that word MF come from?
I thought it was Samuel Jackson.
Shut up, Cirilo.
Right.
I'm just.
And what about butt breaking? What about nigger? What about bitch? What about hoe? You know, what about all of these things? What about black people being fed? FED, fear, envy, distrust. Why don't we trust one another? You know, why do we have a hard time dealing with each other? You know, we're always going to have a hard time dealing with each other. I don't think, and I'll be honest with you, and I keep asking this question: are black people too broken to be healed?
I have to believe in the eventual, like we're moving to the space of oneness, is the space of healing. I don't think it will happen in our lifetime.
Okay, and will it help? Will it happen with ascendant? What is it, ADOS? Will it happen with us, or will it happen only through multiculturalism?
I think that's an excellent question. I believe there's pros and cons to both. Yeah, I believe that it's very difficult to accept and become brothers with other cultures until you actually understand and identify with who you are. You know, and like it's really important to know who you are and trace your roots back as far as you can go. A lot of people can't go that far. Go as far as you can go. Start really becoming one with yourself and your ancestor. Like you bring your ancestry into with yourself, and then you start feeling. You understand these kinships with the motherland and things like that. You know, it's when you start seeing through your DNA samples that, oh my gosh, I got a big part of my DNA that's in Cameroon. And oh, no wonder I like Arturo Fuente cigars. He's Cameroon rapper. And it sounds trivial and funny, but there is something about that helps me. There's something about that makes me feel a little bit more whole. Knowing that the Cameroon rapper is one of my favorite rappers on a cigar. And this was before I knew that I had roots in Cameroon. Like it helps me to heal around this whole thing. Is like I'm enjoying something that I'm not a part of at all. No, I'm a part of this. You know what I mean? So I hear you said it was Ivy who did the first show, and Ivy was talking about the explanation of Black Spasms too, and I listened to that. It was excellent. It was. I have to admit that when I first heard it, I was like, that's interesting. That's an interesting name for something. Like I didn't quite get it, but listening to Ivy and when she said the thing about a spasm is that a lot of us live with them, and we're good because they aren't constant every day. I'm paraphrasing, of course.
She said that.
They're not constant every day, but then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you bend down to pick up a quarter off the ground, it grips you, and it wakes you up, and it lets you know you got a problem there on your damn spine. I know you thought it was gone, but I'll let you know it's still there. And how that relates to the Black community, and that every time we have one of these murders, it grips us the way that a spasm would physically to our body and says, don't think just because you got this government job, you making $125,000 a year, and you driving a Mercedes, and you live in $700,000 Ryan home, and you all this stuff. Don't think
That your
that
spasm is gone.
the issue that creates the spasm has been alleviated. No, it's
Mm-hmm.
you walking through this grace period, for lack of a better term, and then somebody get pulled over and get their ass choked out.
It
Like,
reacts
oh,
fast.
right,
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
right. I thought, and once I heard that, the beauty in the whole concept around black spasms, really did come to life for me. I completely understood it, especially because I had surgery on my back 20 years ago, and I know what it was like to have those back spasms creep up out of nowhere and all that kind of stuff. But it wasn't until I addressed the problem.
Hence, right?
I
See,
had
you get it.
surgery, right? I,
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
got I addressed the problem that my spasms were less frequent. Not completely gone, because there's
Mm-hmm.
still some scarring. There's
They
still
will
some
never
scarring there in my back
right.
that will create inflammatory situations in my life, and I'll be like, "Oh shoot, I can't do anything today. I have, So I get it. It was perfectly clear to me. I applaud the whole idea around black spasms. Really,
And I appreciate that. And that's what we're dealing with. But, imagine, I have a daughter who's 8, right? So imagine her every other month seeing someone black getting killed, right? So the more things change, the more things remain the same.
right?
So she's going to grow up, and that's going to be the norm there. Two things are going to happen. She's going to be sensitized towards it, or it's going to have an adverse effect on her,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
And it's crazy because it's the year 2020 and we're still going through this. Going back to what I said last week, are we revisiting this SHIT again? And yes, we are. But the crazy thing about it now is that it's now happening to, no, it's still happening to black people. I don't think anybody that was murdered by the police was of a mixed race.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think you're right there.
Miss
And
Brown, I
and
said, if the level of lifestyle you live, a different variation of what that spasm is, they probably are more acceptable of them as well, so they can't continue to live as they live. Okay.
I think it's real. I think what you're talking about, the forum is important. The platform is important. Um, Heck, I was sitting around um, at the beginning of the pandemic, and next thing we're dealing with this pandemic and shit. Next thing you know, George Floyd get his ass killed by some.
Say it. It's organic. Go ahead and say what you feel. Say what you
Just
feel.
like it rocked me to my core. I had a black spasm, right? And I was like, this is ridiculous. It
As
is
opposed
the
to,
absence. It's the absence of humanity, right? And the absence of humanity is a problem for everybody. I don't care if you're black, white, Mexican. I don't care. I don't care. The absence of humanity is a problem for everybody, and and it is a problem that needs to be dealt with by everyone. You need to have people that understand some universal truths around human rights. Everybody does. There's something called the Declaration of Human Rights that was created years and years and years ago, and it was done at The Hague, and the countries came together and say, okay, these are the standards for human rights. And when you violate these standards, we're going to bring you before this tribunal, and you're going to answer for the crimes against humanity. right? And it had to be some understanding from people who did not look like us and didn't experience the atrocities that we did in order to get this thing together. It's a beautiful document. I encourage any of your listeners and watchers to actually look it up. The Declaration of Human Rights. And you have schools built around this, you know. And but so it made me start thinking about cigars,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because I have a foothold in this cigar world, and it's like, okay, well, everybody in the cigar business is silent
So
about.
that's our segue into cigars and pairing, y'all. Go ahead.
Yeah, but everybody was silent around the cigar world about the atrocities that was happening to black people. And maybe it wouldn't be their problem, except for the US market is the biggest market for them, right? And these cigar manufacturers and companies, these are people that I've considered friends for years. But they were still silent. And a few participated in the whole Blackout Tuesday thing that we did back in June. You remember we did that?
Mm-hmm.
A few people participated in that, and that's cool. I appreciated that. Um, but to me, that was the minimum, right? And so what I started thinking through was like, you know what? I buy cigars, I smoke them, I post them on social media. I do all these things to promote the brands. I bring these people into different cigar shops that I have relationships with so they can sell more product. I'm doing all of this stuff in the cigar world, and they're not even recognizing what's going on with black people. Oh, they see it, but they're not saying anything. So until they actively join with us in our effort to be recognized for the atrocities that are happening, I'm going to unban your cigars. And so that's what the whole unbanded thing was about. Is I'm not going to promote and market for you if you aren't willing to promote and market for my life. Because that could have very easily been me instead of George Floyd, or the list goes on, right?
Let me jump in right quick.
Sure.
Go back. You said that could have been easily been you instead of George Floyd.
Yes.
It was you. It was me. It
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Because a piece of us, every time something like that happens, a piece of us goes with that person.
Right.
You know,
Absolutely.
So it is us,
It is.
I'll
Yeah, I agree with that.
I'll send you a saying in a second, Mickey. But we'll keep going. But that is us.
No, I agree with that. That's a good point. That's a good point. And
Mm-hmm.
so, a few of my friends that are in the industry, I talked with them and told them like how disappointed I was that they were standing on the sidelines. And they explained to me the cigar industry, and and they really try to stay out of politics and things like that. I'm like, well, first of all, this is a humanitarian issue. This is not a political issue solely. You know what I mean? This is something that you all really should be a part of. Because let's be real about it. Brown people grow the seed into a plant. They harvest the plant. They age the plant. They roll it into cigars. They box them and they ship them to a country where everybody enjoys it, and the brand manufacturers reap the benefits. This is if you don't see that and the threat that brings to all people of color, that's an issue, right? And they just couldn't get it. A couple of them did start coming around, and I was like, okay, we're getting somewhere. We're getting somewhere. Still not full blown, because the issue is, right. They're like, yo, you all are 15% of the population, right? We probably make up about between 20 and 30% of cigar smokers, though, I think. Um, and the other part, you might have 20-30% that actually see, this as a worthwhile, like we need to address these human rights. But then you got 30% that's just like, nah, 4 more years for Trump, like I don't care. Black lives don't matter. All lives matter. Blue lives matter. You got another, and I think they took the position of don't say anything because they didn't want to offend that 30% or what have you. Okay, that's fine. But this is not going away. Because first of all, unfortunately, we're not gonna stop getting our asses shot off. Right? We're not gonna stop getting mistreated anytime soon. So
But more
this
importantly, we're not going to stop being black.
we're not gonna stop being black.
That's
So
number one.
so they benefit from our culture in the way we share with each other and we promote things within and all the stuff. If they're gonna benefit, then they need to stand up as well. And that's why I pulled back from promoting their brand. So I hashtag Nikki showed you. I hashtag everything unbanded, and yeah, and on my social media and all that stuff. And I got a lot of people who have joined in. Like, no, we're not banning. We're not going to promote these brands or this, that, and the other. Now we have black cigar companies, and they deserve to be promoted. To me, that's a separate issue, because not issue, but that's a separate thing. They should be promoted. I applaud them in their efforts, and some of them make some really, really good cigars. But Unbanded is about getting the industry to recognize that they are a part of this too, whether they want to be or not. And getting them to come around and say, you know what, we've been thinking about this wrong. Not dissimilar to the way that the NFL finally was like, hold up, I think we got it wrong before. You know what I mean? Now this is something we really need to address. And so that's where we are. But I've come up with some solutions around that, so that the companies that really do want to do more than black out a screen or buy an ad in a magazine and black that out, like, they can actually do some things that will have impact, where we can actually start putting dollars and money towards some of the things that we're going to have to deal with, some justice funds and some organizations that are out here fighting for our rights and all this stuff. So these are the things that I'm working on right now that will be like the follow-up to Unbanded. So ultimately we will move the space forward in a way that's not just awareness, but it's about actually picking up the pace and doing something about it. You know what I mean? But right now it's really about awareness. Hey, listen, cigar industry, we see that you on the sidelines. We don't like that shit.
Got anything to add to that, Les? Can't hear you, Les.
I said I like it. It's in alignment with what we're trying to do, what we are doing as a people, as a culture, as a race, to get recognized for who we are, what we stand for, what we believe. All lives do matter. They do. All lives. We've
Right.
never said that. We never said that. No one's ever said it didn't. We're looking at the pain and discomfort associated with being black. And that's a life vision. It's now also the pain and discomfort associated with being black in America. The word that I want to share is, I think it's Ubuntu.
Is that
my humanity is caught up in yours? So when we're looking at our brothers and sisters who have been killed out here. And then we're looking at brothers like yourself, you know, who, and I like how you broke down the cigar industry, you know, our people are making these things and growing these seeds, and we need to be heard.
Yeah.
I applaud what you're doing. I mean,
Thank you.
It's overwhelming a lot of times because, you know, you see what's going on. You see this strange fruit. It's not hanging from the trees. You know? And we're now at that age where we're in our life, we're seeing this stuff. It's not.
Right.
It's not. So,
Right.
be it the cigar industry, instead of boycotting, saying, well, no one's going to smoke cigars. You know what I'm saying? Well, if they're passionate about it, instead of, you know, taking off their bans, just don't smoke their cigar, period. But look who gets hurt in the meantime in between.
That's right.
You know, these brothers and sisters are making a living like that. They're doing what they're doing. So yes, if you still want to enjoy a cigar, enjoy your cigar. Take the ban off. You know?
Yep.
Cirilo, your video's frozen.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. Your audio's fine, but your video's frozen.
Oh, okay.
I'm
Let me
sorry.
see
Go
what's
ahead,
going
Les.
on with it.
Oh no. So I'm in agreement with any and everybody that understands what Black people need. You know, and that we are to be taken serious. We've always have wanted to be taken serious.
Right.
But in our day and age, you know, it's to the point now where social media has helped us and it's hurt us at the same time. So we need to use it, you know, when we see our brothers and sisters being murdered and executed, instead of just watching that all the time. There are other things that we should be able to do, you know. So I can talk about this forever and a day. You know, there is something like they want to say, Nikki told me that I can't say the whole thing, you know, in terms of reparations, you know, and as Amos Wilson says, he says, the essence of justice is the redistribution of gains earned through the perpetration of injustice. If we are not given reparations, it doesn't have to be in the form of money, and if it is ignored, then it's going to go back to the people who cause the pain on us, and the cycle is just going to continue. So, as L. Scott Heron said, who will pay reparations on my soul?
You still with us, Cirilo?
Okay. Is that better?
Can't see you. You're, I can hear you, but you're blacked out.
Black spot.
He having a black spasm with technology right now. There we go. He's back.
Welcome black.
Is that better? All
Great.
right. All right. Sorry about that.
That's
It jumped from the 5 to the
5 to the regular.
2.4. I had to go next to the router to get like what the heck? I hate when it does that. It does it during my Zoom meetings. I'm like, oh my gosh. Everything looks like stop motion. Yeah, thanks for. I did hear what you were saying though, Les, and that's for what you're saying there. I think that we just have to have small steps, and build, and sometimes we'll tackle a goal that's just way too big for us to get any momentum going. But if you do some things that are small and you just do them consistently, then I think that it has the potential that you don't have to be the only person moving it forward. I mean, shoot, Nikki posts things with unbanned. So a lot of my other friends, they starting to post things with unbanned, and I'm reposting those things because it's small, but we're not going anywhere. And this is a problem that's going to exist. So we're going to address it in our space. And I think if everybody is associated with a space, whether that be you in the yoga community or you in the health and wellness community, and you're in the like whatever, and you're in the you see the brother that is the race car driver who's all these
Bubba.
races. Yeah, bubble, and then the tennis, our tennis, like everybody can affect things in their space. You know what I mean? And you don't have to go on every piece of it. Then we all same goal in mind. You have to deal in the space that you have a kinship in. You know.
Mm-hmm. So Miss Brown Eyes says, so Unbanded is a movement to wake up the owners of the cigar industry. So yes, but it's not banded that way, Miss Brown Eyes. It's like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So you
Unband it. Because we're actually
literally,
taking the band off of the actual cigar. Yep.
and which is really interesting, right, Nikki? Because the product that I sell to the industry is about taking the band and putting it in a book. So
Yes,
I'm
yes,
literally working against myself
yes.
with this movement, you know. But the reality is that I think this is more important than me
Mhm.
selling a few journals here and there. You know what
Right,
I mean? This is,
right, right,
you know,
right.
if you want to, you know, I really think that we have to have a form of activism, whether
Hmm.
it's overt or passive. Like we have to have a form of activism in our space, you
Right,
know.
right.
And I'm happy to sacrifice, you know, a few journals here and there or whatever. You know what I mean? It's that everybody. If it's not a sacrifice, then is it really part of your heart like that? Like I mean,
Hmm.
really, like the sacrifice is part of the whole reason for pushing forward because you know it's not going to be easy.
So Miss Brown Eye says, question: once they make true to their word and stand by you, your people, will you allow their bands to remain and reband it? Good question.
That is a good question.
Great question.
It's something that I've been dealing with actively, right?
Hmm.
And because there are some companies that have who have, like I said, stood up and said, you know, we support Black Lives Matter, we support this, that, and the other, you know. So we're not on we're not on the bad list, right? And I'm like, well, it's not that you were ever on a bad list. You were just on you were on a list of people who didn't have anything to say or whatever. The idea is I don't want to reband it, so to speak, without it having a significant impact on moving the ball forward further.
Hmm.
So uh so yes, to some regard, yeah, people post a picture of an Ashton cigar, which is one of the companies that did the Blackout Tuesday, then cool. That's cool. I'm not gonna post it because Ashton has done that, but Ashton hasn't come to the table with a solution as to how we're gonna better things. Ashton is just aware. Oh, Nikki, we lost Nikki, huh? You there, Les? Okay. Yeah, so Ashton has become aware of things, but they have not been a part of a solution to move the ball forward. So that's a good question. Yeah, I do think that that there has to be a way for people to get out of the the bad space, so to speak. Um, but right now, right now for me, like I have other friends that are posting, they're only buying black owned brands right now, which is cool. And I hope they're really enjoying their cigars. And I've bought a few, but I don't post those right now because that's not what I'm trying to to promote. I'm not promoting, buy this instead of that. That's not what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to say, hey, listen, there is a problem, industry. I want you to recognize this problem, industry. And once you recognize this problem, I want to collectively come up with a solution to this problem, said industry. You know what I mean? And I think that for all those other companies that exist, the black-owned companies and all that stuff, I'm like, man, more power to you. I'll buy your stuff personally. I'm not going to post your bands because this is not this versus them. That's not where I am with it. I am really trying to get to the point where, as an industry, we understand and have a collective voice around Black Lives Mattering. I hope that answers your question. So there will be a future installation of people who are really bought in, having their promoted time saying Ashton Cigars is just for example, they haven't yet, but Ashton Cigars has done this, that, and the other, and they are a part of this. I will gladly post their cigar and their bands and this, that, and the other. You know what I mean? So but for right now, I'm hoping that the awareness is picking up to a point where, we got to say something. We can't just be sitting here on the side like creeps.
Right. So for those of you who don't know, Cirilo has a journal called Humidor Notes. And basically what it is you take your band off the cigar and you put it in the journal and you write about the cigar, what you liked about it, the different tones to it. There you go. And what you liked about it, the burn, the smoke, the taste, all that good stuff.
The tasting notes for it and
exactly.
all.
Yes. So and he is on Instagram as Humidor Muse for those that want to follow him on Instagram. And I am Cigar Baker on Instagram, and also follow Black Spasms on Instagram. So
you all have I didn't know you had an Instagram page. Okay, I got to make sure I follow that.
Yep, Black okay, cool. Spasms. So for those, we always ask people to follow us on all of our social media platforms. If you go to Linktree /Black Spasms, it'll take you to all of our social media platforms in one location. You don't have to keep, going to different websites and stuff.
Cool.
So yeah. Sorry, y'all. I disappeared for a second. I got a Mac and I hit the trackpad incorrectly and it threw me out. So I had to, it wasn't trying to let me back in. So Miss Brown Eyes says, thank you, Cirilo. You got this.
Thank you.
So she was also asked, this is your version of canceling out, it seems.
Yeah, so that's interesting, right? Because I would say that if I said, you know what, I'm not even going to smoke your cigars. I have a humidor full of cigars. And a lot of friends that I know have humidors full of cigars.
One right here.
Right. And so canceling for me, we talked about a cancel culture earlier, to me would be, you know what? I ain't smoking your cigars no more. The funny thing is, when I post an unbanned cigar, the manufacturers know it's their cigar.
But other people don't.
They may, some make. There are some very distinct cigars out here, right?
Yes,
you don't need the label and actually to know it.
Like
and and then some people will call me or send me a text message like, "Yo, you enjoying that whatever tonight?" I'm like, "Yeah, I am." But I'm still. You saw I unbanded it, though.
Right. Exactly.
So I don't want to cancel. I don't want to cancel it because I love this industry. I really do love it.
I do. I love the cigar. Um, the industry, you know, I can take it or leave it. It's some for me. It's some of the things that happen or whatever. But I think that's a conversation for another day.
It
You
is,
know,
but for real, Nikki, you and I wouldn't know each other if it weren't for this. And
this is true.
it wasn't just the cigar itself. It was
Hmm.
our love and appreciation for the industry that actually put us in the same spaces,
Okay. Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because we could have easily just been buying cigars sitting on our deck and enjoying them, but we really wanted more. We wanted more, so we were doing bus tours and we were doing
Mm-hmm.
tweet ups, and we
Mm-hmm.
were doing all these things that were marrying our love for cigars
Mm-hmm.
with the industry itself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we know Skip Martin from Roma Craft and Pete
Mm-hmm.
Johnson from Tatuaje,
Mm-hmm.
but we know these people because we love the industry,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm.
and I like Les was saying, I don't want to penalize myself for their lack of participation in Black Lives Matter. I still want. There are companies their cigars. I love their cigars. I'm gonna keep smoking their cigars
Mm-hmm.
because, as a cigar smoker, this. You find your spaces,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And so
Yes.
for me to be like, man, you know what? I ain't smoking you no more. Eh,
Mm-mm. Not mm-mm.
they didn't really do anything to me. They just haven't been supportive of me.
Mm-hmm. But
And but there are
but
companies that have literally been burned off the grid as far as I'm concerned because of their because what they actually did. You know what I mean?
mm-hmm.
Like there's some companies that's like,
Oh,
yo, I don't care how many ads you put out saying Black Lives Matter. You can put the fist on a label, and I am not buying your cigar.
oh, let's call it out. I know you talk about Gurkha. Go ahead and call him out. I'll call him out.
Gurkha is one of
Gurkha.
them.
Gurkha is one of
Gurkha
them.
is one of them.
You could not pay me to smoke a Gurkha cigar right now.
Right.
Period.
Right.
So,
Right.
no,
So yeah,
but
it's because they represent the other side. So it's the like we were talking about earlier. They are so the companies I'm having a problem with right now that I still feel hope for. They're the George Bushes, right? It's right like we talked about earlier. It's not that they actively don't care. It's that wait, it's not that they're actively going against us. It's like they just don't care. Right? And that's
so
different. That's different from like Les was saying. That's different from Strom Thurmond, who actively is trying to make
right,
sure that we
right,
stay down.
right. So Miss Brown Eyes, excuse my ignorance, but I don't know what TBH means. Any of y'all know what
To
TBH
be
means?
honest,
Okay,
to
to
be
be honest,
honest,
okay. People never truly cancel out any one brand. Just like y'all mentioned before, you hear that MJ or R. Kelly song, you start to sway to the beat. so,
right.
so yeah, but
So
I do think for me, the cigar culture has changed dramatically since I started smoking, and that's why I choose to not do do lounges and stuff anymore.
yeah,
It's just, I mean, the pandemic opened my eyes to a lot of BS that was going on,
right.
and I won't ever stop smoking.
Mm-hmm.
That ain't happening unless the
Mm-hmm.
doctor says something crazy and my life depends on it or something. But
Right.
other than that, I don't need a lounge to hang out with you or any of the fellas or the ladies or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
that was one of the things about the culture that I truly love is the camaraderie, how we can get together and
Absolutely.
smoke and talk about all kinds of stuff. Like it was
Absolutely.
never just one thing. And so we would actually sit around before I knew about Black Spasms and we were talking about Black Spasms,
Right.
um, talking about all kinds of stuff. And we've had some really great and deep conversations over smoking cigars. It's just it's and for me, dating someone who smokes cigars, or anybody out there who is married or dating someone that's and the both of you smoke, it adds a different level of intimacy to the relationship.
I can imagine.
It does. I mean, just sitting around talking. I don't know. For me, when I smoke a cigar, it opens up my mind. I'm calm because you can't hotbox this. You know what I'm saying? You will get sick.
Been smoking the same cigar for 2 hours now.
No, actually, I switched another one. I got another one.
No, I'm talking about me. But you know what? This thing is nubbed.
See, your video frozen. You back to 2.0.
Oh my gosh. Not again.
There you go. Or somewhat. You came back a little bit.
I came back a little bit. Let me look at this thing again.
A little bit. But
oh my God. Yes, it did go right back to 2.4.
But yeah, that's
tragic.
That's one of the things that I really love about the cigar industry is how you can come together and talk about all kinds of things, and it just mellows you out. It calms me down. It really mellows me out. And if you have a nice pairing with it, then that would be awesome. So when Cirilo gets his video back, he's going to tell us what he's pairing with his cigar tonight. Miss Brown Eyes, Cirilo, she said you got to get an extender for your Wi-Fi.
And so my Wi-Fi is tired of my shit. You're talking enough, man. Enough already.
So let's tell us what shit means again.
Suppressive, harmful, intrusive thoughts.
That's what shit means.
And I got that from Dr. Ray Hagan, so that's not mine. So I want to give credit where credit is due.
So yes. I want to say thank you, gentlemen, for joining me today. Next week we're going to have round 2 of voting. I'm going to get into the Electoral College so I can break that down for folks, because I think a lot of people don't understand what the Electoral College is. I got some things to say about that.
And the damage it does.
Yes, I got some things to say about that. So, Miss Brown Eyes, she is off the chain. Miss Brown Eyes says, that's how I feel when I release shit too.
See, y'all talking that shit, and it's gonna go back to 2.4 on me. Well, we didn't get a chance to go into the alcohols. Let's just save that for another time. We'll do that.
You can tell us what you paying now.
I mean, no. I mean, right now it's just the Elijah Craig small batch. I really, you know what, we could spend a little time next time just kind of going through whiskey, because I so many people are like, oh, I don't drink brown liquor. It's like, well, what does that mean? Like, really, a lot of liquors are brown. Like, there's brown liquors, not one category, right? And so I think that it's important for people to understand the different expressions of brown liquor, whether it be rum or whiskey, or even so, you have some brown tequilas. You know what I mean? And it's all. I think that if they understand what brown liquors they don't like, then they can avoid those, but also be open to some brown liquors that they might like. And
well, can you come back next week? Are you available next week?
I may be available next week.
Okay.
I'll have to look at my calendar. But yeah, if I, we'll talk offline, see if I have Wednesday available next week. And
that'd be awesome.
We just, I don't know. It's kind of hard to get into some some talks around this kind of stuff when we have some heavy topics before, and how we deal with Black oppression is.
Hey, that's why I like to end the show on a light note. That's why I said Cigars Pairings. That's why that's last. We get into some heavy stuff, and want to end
all
it
the
on a
shows
positive
I've done
note.
lately, we get into these categories, these spaces, because the world is just heavy right now, right? And it's like, and we aren't around each other, socializing around these things to help each other through it. So now we get on these shows and these Zooms and it's like all of it just spills out. It's like, oh, and like Les was saying earlier, it's like this is therapy for us.
Yep.
And we need it because we are so wound up and so worried about the future, and so all these things is just like, man, come on, man. And with so many.
Miss Brown says not everyone has that sophisticated palate or knowledge of liquor and how to pair it with foods, etc. All right, got to come back to educate folks, and that's one of the reasons why I named this podcast "Intimate Conversations" is because I want people to feel like everybody's sitting around somebody's living room having a conversation. Like there's no real format to this. It's organic. How you feel is how you feel. If you're angry, tell us why you're angry. I want to hear from our viewers, which is why I encourage them to to comment and things of that nature. Because like you said, everybody's heavy. Like some people can't go to their to their kids' house or to their parents' house and hug up on them and love up on them.
That's right.
So with travel, being what it is and stuff, and people losing their jobs and their homes, it's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot. And this is my way of, this is my therapy, getting on here and talking and educating, because I feel better when I'm able to educate and help, and just help enlighten people's consciousness and have them think and maybe do some research.
Absolutely.
To enlighten their mind, because I think when you understand things better, you can deal with it a little bit better.
Sure.
When you understand the root of certain things, you tend to deal with it a little bit differently, because you understand why, it's happening. So we will never, I think we kind of understand why we have Black spasms, and it stems from slavery. And I know we're going to have a podcast about that, to just go into the root of slavery and what slavery, the true slavery, not within the textbooks.
Right.
The rawness of it. I mean, what really happened, during slavery. So, that's not going to be for the faint of heart at all. So we're putting some shows together, and I think after the election, because next week is the last Wednesday in October. In November, we're gonna start talking about some heavy stuff. So definitely want people to be watching and tuning in. And like I said,
I applaud your effort.
Thank you.
This is really good. This is really good. I enjoyed my time. It was nice to meet you, Les. And your guests are cool. I like that. I like the engagement, and I look forward to coming on again.
Awesome. Whenever you want to come on, just say the word. Hey, Nick, I'm free. So
okay.
And we will be more than happy, to have you on. And I mean, if there are any, cigar people that want to come on in the industry that want to talk about it, they're more than welcome to come on as well. So
sounds
definitely. Well, guys, we're gonna go ahead and wrap this up. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. And again, we want you to follow us on all of our platforms. So go to Linktree/Black Spasms and follow us. When you get to YouTube, subscribe to our channel, hit the subscribe button, and it'll let you know whenever we're going live or whenever a video is posted. So Les, you got any last words?
It's been a great show. I learned a few things.
Awesome.
I'm thinking maybe we can call Chelsea and have Chelsea do some of her great artwork with the unbanded cigar and black spasms.
Man, listen. Hey, Cirilo, our artist is off the chain. Okay,
Yeah.
when you go to Linktree, and you go to our store, all the artwork is done by her.
Okay.
She
Okay.
is a beast. She is a beast, and maybe we can get her to do something with Unbanded. So if you have something in mind, like a graphic, just
Okay.
let us know, and we can get Chelsea to do that. So then we can add that to Unbanded.
Sounds good. Sounds
Yes,
good.
yes,
All
yes,
right.
yes, yes. All right. Well, you'll let me know if you can be here next week. If not, I will see you in 7 days, my brother.
All right. See y'all later.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Want to thank everybody for joining in, and we're out. Have a great one.
Bye.